And that subsequently leads to an emotional, a physical, financial, and social crisis. Now, even after a long, drawn-out trial spanning several years, the family is acquitted of the charges. Does it wipe out the ignominy which is borne by them during the trial? No. In fact, to be honest, the process of growing through the ponderous and inefficient legal system in India itself is a punishment. Now, the neighbors, the society, the law enforcement authorities all look upon the husband's family as criminals, as culprits when the police visit their home and arrest them. These law-abiding citizens will usually have no previous run-in with the law or the police. They lose dignity and then they are subsequently ostracized in society. There have been instances where the mother or the father have died of shock or committed suicide because the humiliation of a false criminal case was too much to bear. Now, for every male who's accused under the IPC 498A, there are at least 2 women. There may be several more, but there are at least 2 women, which is his mother and sister or a sister-in-law, which are implicated in a crime that never occurred. 498A, which according to the National Commission of Women, claims to be a law which only to the daughter-in-law ever do justice. Senior citizens who've never been to a police station or court in their life are dragged into jail without investigation and then into court cases that span several years, maybe decades. The WHO, therefore, has in 2004 reported due to the misuse of 498A. A society which has traditionally respected and supported elders in their twilight years now has daughter-in-laws who treat them. In the year 2005 alone, and let me add that these statistics have actually been given out in response to a right to information by the Ministry of Home Affairs. So this is their own statistics. So in the year 2005 alone, 1,34,757 people were arrested in something like 58,319 complaints under 498A, Dowry Prohibition Act. Now, what is the shocking statistic here? The shocking statistic is that out of these 1 lakh or more people, 358 people were children and 4,744 people were senior citizens. Approximately 18% of this total number that was arrested was never charge-sheeted because the charges were dropped due to false or frivolous complaints. What does that mean? That means something like 24,256 innocent people were arrested and sent to jail without the case ever reaching a court of law, only because this offense is cognizable. That is, the police has the right and is in fact supposed to act upon the case and is non-bailable, wherein you have to appear in a court in order to ask for the bail, which is not guaranteed. It is the discretion of the judge whether he decides to give you bail or not. The number of people acquitted thereafter due to innocence or false complaints, given that conviction rates under this law are only 2%, and you can easily compute the number of false and unwarranted arrests. So these people are arrested, which is a form of punishment even before their guilt is either proved or framed. So that is what IPC 498A is. Now, it's a law that presumes guilt even before the trial begins and is against the spirit of natural justice, which demands that even if 1,000 guilty are let off, no innocent should be punished. Now, I'm talking of a very recent judgment. You may have read it in the newspapers, where the Honorable Chief Metropolitan Magistrate, Saini, stated, and I quote, "Since there is no evidence against the accused in the instant case, the Delhi police failed to understand the meaning of liberty as enshrined in the Constitution by keeping him in custody." She's saying this in reference to a young Kashmiri boy by the name of Dar, who was accused by the Lashkar-e-Taiba of being one of their own. Now, she said that in the garb of pending investigation, the police played with the liberty of Dar, who was kept in custody only on the basis of disclosures by 2 persons. However, the judiciary tacitly endorses the infringement of fundamental rights of innocent husbands and their family, while a person who under the sole custody of a terrorist organization is sent to jail, and the judiciary chastises the police for that. But when it comes to the innocent husband and his family members, you will never see the judiciary come out against this. And they do this. It tacitly endorses the infringement of fundamental rights presumption that the Indian woman would never destroy or never do anything to harm her family. Now, until this presumption that wife is always the victim is not shed by the Indian society, cruel wives are going to continue to destroy peace in your family as well as in the society at large. You have to understand that there are bad people in both sexes. There can be men who are cruel and there can be women who are cruel. And basically, any law should address that, and whoever is guilty should be punished. Now, every victim of what tries to do is to make you give in to whatever the demands of the wife is. The criminal courts, which are supposed to act and punish the guilty, act like recovery courts, wherein every effort is made to get the wife's demands met with, no matter how unjustified. A prior relationship, when the wife has a prior relationship and cannot get out of it, she marries maybe to satisfy her parents or under duress, and then misuses the 498A law in order to obtain a divorce. Adultery. Women who indulge in adultery use the 498A as a tool to threaten their husbands. Domination and alienation, which often is, at least in my mind, and from all the cases that I have seen, domination and alienation seems to be a very important factor, wherein the wife wants the husband to abandon his parents as well as his siblings and have total control over his finances as well as his social behavior, including his lifestyle. Custody. To deny the father and his family access to their children if there is a children involved in the marriage, if there's a child involved in the marriage. Fraudulent marriages, in which the bride and her family hides her educational level or her mental health status, and when justifiably is asked to free the person who has gone into such a marriage without knowing the full facts, she files a false 498A. Resist, and sometimes paradoxically, to resist divorce despite incompatibility. When the boy or the husband's family wants a divorce, then a false 498A is lodged in order to pressurize the boy to withdraw the divorce case. It's interesting that even if you are not a Hindu and don't strictly come under the purview of the Hindu Marriage Act, even then you can have a 498A registered against you. Let's talk about what is the emotional crisis that you undergo when you have a false case against you. Every individual who is either threatened or falsely charged with a crime under Section 498A undergoes an emotional roller coaster. There's anger, and justifiably so, at the police for punishment without any crime. Some hapless men, unable to live a harassed and humiliated married life, prefer to die. Many others live their lives under constant fear of being falsely implicated under